Rieu's incredible energy belies his age, as he continues to make more money at concerts than big names like Bruce Springsteen and Coldplay. His live shows have brought in an amazing $300 million US from over 700 events. The classical music maestro has built an empire that not many people could have imagined. He started with a small 14-piece ensemble in 1987, and now leads the world's biggest private orchestra with 75 members. His amazing business skills are clear as he has sold more than 40 million albums, and recorded 50 albums over the course of his career. He made classical music famous all over the world, and his annual Christmas shows draw 60,000 people from all over the world. This huge attraction has helped him make a huge fortune. The story of how this classical music expert got rich and planned to leave his money to his family is just as interesting as his musical legacy. Rieu builds a music business worth millions of dollars. Rieu's rise from a lounge orchestra player to Billboard's highest-grossing classical act shows how smart he is as a businessman and how talented he is as a musician. The 75-year-old Dutch violinist has built a multi-million-dollar empire out of his love of classical music that keeps growing even though the industry faces problems. Rieu's empire began in 1978 with the Maastricht Salon Orchestra, his first group. His dream came true in 1987 when the Jan Straw Orchestra was formed. The group started with 12 members and practiced for 6 months before their first show on January 1, 1988. The orchestra grew a lot over the years. By 2008 it had 43 players, and between 2008 and 2020 it had 50 to 60 members. In 1995, during an international football game in Amsterdam, Rieu bought 60 seconds of live TV time to play Shostakovich's Waltz No. 2 during halftime, which changed the game. Ajax scored just before Hallenheim, which was a big help. He remembered that the next week I sold 200,000 CDs. Moment made a violinist who wasn't well known a household name. His fame exploded after TV appearances and tours in Europe, and the media called him the modern in 1996. He created a brand that would define his career for decades. The Jan Straw Orchestra becomes a gold mine. Rieu stands out from other classical musicians because of how well his orchestra has done in the music business. His orchestra has been on Billboard's top 25 tours list for almost 20 years, along with stars like Bruce Springsteen and Justin Bieber. By 2018, he had become Billboard's highest-grossing classical artist, making a total of USD $550 million a month just to pay everyone. And that's not even counting touring. You can only think how much more it costs when we do tour. It's a big family. There are 110 people on my salary, and another 100 who work for me on a freelance basis. The business stays profitable thanks to multiple sources of income. Even with these huge costs for decades, the classical music business has had a hard time with lower demand, higher costs, and smaller profits. By bridging the gap between classical music and other types of music, Rieu created new opportunities. He made his own way instead of following the rules of traditional classical music. You know how the seriousness of classical music makes most people stay away from concert halls. Well, that's not the case with us. His shows turned into happy celebrations where people could sway, hum along and clap, which isn't allowed in traditional classical venues. His business went beyond concerts. He opened a recording studio, an events company, and a live music venue. Custom training for costumes and sets. His musicians get extra care, like a professional chef, a fitness teacher, Mercedes-Benz buses that are made just for them, and even a private kindergarten for parents. Classical music critics might call Rieu's performances schmaltzy, but he loves it. I'm trying to create a Jessim quirk where music, dance, and costumes all add up to a magical evening, he says. This vision has been a huge success. Unlike traditional orchestras, which depend on government grants, donations, or institutional support, Rieu's business has been able to run entirely on its own. Ticket sales are the most important part, but the DVD is also very important. Being financially independent helped him get through some tough times, like when an expensive castle replica stage set almost put him out of business in 2008. These cutting-edge business strategies helped Rieu reach his goal of making all classical music accessible to everyone, and his huge wealth is proof of how well this mission worked out. Rieu's house is the most valuable thing he owns. It is a beautiful 16th-century fortress in the middle of Maastricht Castle, has come to represent André Rieu's huge fortune. The classical music virtuoso didn't just buy a fancy house like other famous people do, he bought a piece of history that will always be worth more. The castle Rieu didn't plan to invest in Huey's tower house of the small turrets at first. The front side was for sale while we were on vacation in the south of France. We weren't really looking for it, but chances like this don't come along very often. Recalled Marjorie Rieu about their surprise purchase. André had a connection to the property from his childhood. He took piano lessons there as a boy, even though he hated his teacher, and the castle was dark, damp, and sad at the time. His interest in castles began early in life through his love of Tintin comics. I grew up reading Tintin, and in one of the books, he and Professor Calculus sold an invention and bought a castle, he said. Rieu talked about Andrés on September 11, 1999. He bought the castle for €1,459,000, which is about $1.9 million. The historic building was split into 3 sections, which was unusual at the time. When we were able to get the front, we hoped that one day we could bring back the entire castle to its former state, Marjorie Rieu said. We ended up buying all 3 sections piece by piece. The castle has a long history. The oldest part of the kitchen was built in 1452. While most of the building was built in the famous French musketeer D'Artagnan, is said to have had his last breakfast in the castle before dying at Maastricht's gates, during the 1673 siege. The castle's transformation didn't involve professional designers, most of it was done by André himself. Reports say the musician added his own touches by lighting up dark rooms with gold leaf accents, and furnishing them with one-of-a-kind pieces he found all over Europe. André also built a valuable French-style orrery on the grounds that was full of some people by Ferraris, but I wanted a garden full of butterflies, and that's what I have. Rieu said that the castle is even more valuable because it is part of Rieu's larger real estate interests. The 72-year-old violinist has made his own little district in Mari, with 34 properties, including 6 buildings near the castle, and a lot of land. Taking care of this historic treasure costs a lot, because the soft stone structure needs constant maintenance. Renovation. As soon as I fix one half, I have to start fixing the other half again. Rieu said that the castle got a lot of work done to fix damage to the roof and walls caused by the stone breaking down over time. André doesn't live in the castle. He prefers his 150-year-old house on a neighboring street, but the property is still the jewel in his crown, and a beautiful display of his musical empire. The castle has become part of his brand identity, and Rieu says, I use the castle to promote my concerts. When Americans come to visit the King of Waltzes, who lives in his own castle, they are amazed by his Stradivarius violin collection. André Rieu's wealth goes beyond the money he makes from concerts in the house. His most valuable possessions are right under his chin. The fiddler has some very rare string instruments that she uses for music, and also holds as multi-million-dollar investments that keep going up in value. The Dutch master played a violin with an amazing background. It was a 1667 Stradivarius violin that he used for Antonio Stradivari made this instrument when he was just starting out on his legendary career. Rieu has a deep connection to this early period instrument. I used to play on the 1667 Stradivarius, which was an instrument the man made while he was engaged to his future wife. The man put his love for her into that instrument. And you can hear it. This first Stradivarius helped Rieu join a small group of musicians who play such rare instruments. To get one, you really need to learn how to play the violin. It's not that far away, only 3 or 4 people around the world were sure of that. Rieu said that word of his search for a Stradivarius spread like wildfire. They came like flies to honey. It was unbelievable. I did nothing. They came from the other side of the world with violins calling out, "Come play." How André Rieu got the expensive and rare instruments he has now. As Rieu's fame grew, he added an even rarer 1732 Stradivarius violin to his collection. This is why media reports sometimes show different dates for when he owned both instruments. He owned them at different times. These instruments sell for unbelievable amounts of money. A typical Stradivarius is worth a few million euros, and the most valuable ones are worth a lot more. The most expensive violin in the world, the Lady Blunt Stradivarius, was sold for more than your 15 million, but its value goes far beyond expert craftsmanship. Rieu puts it in historical context by saying, "When I do a little math, I notice that the trees for the wood of the Stradivarius instruments had to be put in the ground during Columbus's discovery of the New World. This history is what collectors and musicians are drawn to today." Rieu talks about his violin with a lot of emotion, often making interesting comparisons. It's true that each woman is different, but there is only one woman you can love. The same is true for violins. This shows that these tools are more important to him than money. Touring with priceless violins is a nightmare for insurance companies, and moving million-dollar instruments across continents is a big challenge. The cost is high, and these valuable instruments need special insurance covering. Rieu told an interesting story. "Once my Stradivarius violin is worth more than my hands, but my violin is covered while my hands are not. This shows the strange priorities in keeping these treasures safe. The safety steps for these instruments are a lot of stories," say Rieu's priceless Stradivarius comes with its own bodyguard and first-class airline seats. This keeps the instruments safe and at the right temperature during international trips. Rieu is very dedicated to these instruments. During the COVID-19 pandemic 21, when his orchestra was having money problems, he said, "I will sell my Stradivarius to support my orchestra." He meant it. "It's my life's work, you see. Then I'll throw away my life that I've built, and they'll go with me." Putting it all together, performances began again before such drastic moves were needed.